They say time heals all wounds. But what they don't always tell you is that sometimes time brings with it an unexpected gift, a second chance. This is the story of Clara James. A woman who once believed her heart had closed its doors to love forever, only to realize that sometimes, love has a way of finding you when you least expect it. Clara had once lived a fairy tale, or so she thought. Married to her college sweetheart, Daniel, for nearly 12 beautiful years, they built a simple, fulfilling life together. They had a small bookshop in a cozy corner of the city, the kind where the smell of old pages and brewed coffee lingered in the air. They didn't have much, but they had each other, and that was enough. But life has a way of rewriting stories. One rainy afternoon, Daniel was driving back from a charity event when an accident occurred on the highway. The kind of accident you never think could happen to you, until it does. Clara received the call that would change everything. Her world shattered. Grief doesn't announce itself politely. It barges in, uninvited, and lingers longer than you want it to. Clara stopped showing up to the bookstore. The pages that once brought her joy only reminded her of what she'd lost. Friends came and went, unsure of how to comfort her. She smiled at them, thanked them, and then returned to her quiet, empty house. For 2 years, Clara lived like a ghost in her own life. Breathing, but barely living. One spring morning, something shifted. It wasn't dramatic or loud. Just a moment. She passed by the bookstore, now shuttered and dusty, and for the first time in years she paused. Not out of pain, but out of longing. She walked in. The bell above the door still chimed, a familiar, soft sound. Dust danced in the sunlight streaming through the window. And on the counter sat a photo of Daniel, smiling, holding a book they once published together. Clara didn't cry this time. She smiled. That evening, she reopened the doors to the bookstore. Not for business, not yet. But for healing. She spent the next few weeks cleaning, organizing, breathing life back into the space. Locals noticed. Old customers started stopping by. Strangers peered in with curiosity. And then, one day, someone walked in and changed everything. His name was Matthew Hayes. A retired teacher, a widower, and a father of 2 grown daughters. He was looking for a specific poetry book, one his late wife used to read aloud during their family camping trips. Clara didn't have it in stock, but she promised to order it for him. Their interaction was brief. Kind. Simple. But something lingered. Matthew returned a week later to pick up the book. This time, they spoke longer. He asked about the bookstore's history. She shared stories about Daniel, about their shared dream. She surprised herself with how openly she talked, how it didn't hurt the way it used to. Weeks turned into months. And slowly, without planning it, Matthew became part of Clara's rhythm. He'd stop by every Thursday, sometimes with tea, sometimes with pastries from the local bakery, always with a warm smile. They'd talk about books, about loss, about how the world seemed to keep moving even when your heart didn't. And then, one Thursday, Clara found herself waiting. Anticipating. Hoping. She realized she missed him, more than she was ready to admit. One quiet evening, as autumn leaves painted the sidewalks gold and crimson, Matthew invited Clara to a community poetry reading. She hesitated. It felt like a big step, too soon, too fast. But then she remembered something Daniel once told her during a walk in the rain. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose joy again. So she said yes. That night, under twinkling lights and soft verses of poetry, Clara laughed. Really laughed. The kind of laugh that comes from deep within. She looked at Matthew, and for the first time, saw more than a friend. She saw a new chapter. But starting over isn't easy, not when your heart still carries the weight of yesterday. Clara struggled with guilt. Was she betraying Daniel? Was it too soon? Did moving on mean forgetting? One evening, as she closed up the bookstore, she found an old journal tucked behind the counter. Daniel's journal. She hadn't seen it in years. Hands trembling, she opened it. Inside, she found a passage written just a month before the accident. If anything ever happens to me, I hope Clara finds happiness again. She deserves a life full of laughter, of love, of new adventures. Love isn't a one-time gift, it's a flame that deserves to keep burning. Clara wept. Not from sorrow, but from release. After that, things changed. She let herself feel again. She let herself dream again. She and Matthew began spending more time together. They took long walks, attended book fairs, hosted reading nights at the bookstore. They didn't rush anything. There was no need. Their love grew slowly, like ivy climbing a sunlit wall. And just like that, the girl who once believed her heart had closed forever, found it opening again. 1 year later, on a crisp winter morning, Matthew brought Clara to the community garden near the bookstore. It had become their special place. A bench had been placed under the big oak tree, one they often sat on to read together. There, etched into the wood, were the words, "To second chances and new beginnings." Matthew turned to her, gently took her hand, and said, "We may have lost love before, but maybe we were meant to find it again, in each other." Clara didn't say anything for a moment. Tears shimmered in her eyes, not of sorrow, but of gratitude. She whispered, "Yes. Yes, I believe that." Clara and Matthew's story isn't about replacing the past. It's about honoring it, while still choosing to embrace the present. It's a reminder that loss doesn't mean your story ends. Sometimes, it simply means a new chapter is about to begin. To anyone listening right now, whether you're grieving, healing, or simply wondering if happiness will ever knock again, let Clara's story be your sign. Love doesn't always come the way we expect. But it comes. And when it does, it's worth opening the door. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a little hope today. Leave a comment below if you believe in second chances. We'd love to hear your story too. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep believing in love.